Welcome back to a brand new video. Back. Merhaba, ben KAYLA SIERRA, and welcome back to a brand new video. Happy Valentine's Day to you guys, and if you're anything like me, when, this holiday comes around and everyone's like, oh, love is in the air, I'm like 6 feet apart, mask, like contamination, hand sanitizer, the whole thing. Like, I do not want any parts of it. I say that full on knowing I'm a hopeful romantic. But in celebration of Valentine's Day, I want to share with you guys my favorite rom-com movies, which I did of course say in the last video, but anybody who knows me and romance go like this. We are soulmates, we go together, like there's no Kayla without romance. These movies are going to be in no particular order, mainly because I didn't feel like reading them, but then also I knew that each one had its own like different purpose and like meaning to me, and it was just gonna feel like I was betraying some of them by like ranking them lower than what I really wanted to. It was gonna become a whole lot, and I was already feeling emotional about doing this video because some of these movies have like genuinely hit me hard in my heart, and I'm still dealing with the emotional anguish from them. So it's just like, just let them be. I don't have to rank them. They can just be great on their own. So without further ado, here are my top 10 rom-com movies. Starting out strong, I have Crazy Rich Asians, which is actually one of my comfort movies. When I say I could watch this movie like any day, all day, like it doesn't matter. Well, not all day, because I have some feelings about this movie, as I do with all of these, but I love the love story in this movie so badly. But can we start off by saying that Nick was a little problematic, because how are you gonna be rich, crazy rich, have all this fortune and money and like fame and status and stuff, and not tell your girl? Like, I get it, like she didn't know anything about you, but literally he could not have set Rachel up for failure more than he did in this movie. There's no way he could have led her astray more. And I feel like he was almost like surprised when she was coming to him and saying like, you know, like your mom treating me like this, these catty little girls, and like how they're acting and da 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 da. And he was just kind of like, oh my gosh, you know, like we just have to get through this weekend and like we can go back. Like, I don't really think he took accountability for just like throwing her into the pits of fire like he did. Because like it wasn't just like her mama and then like the little girls or whatever from like the bachelorette trip. It was the family, and like, because if you watch the scene when like she first gets to his house and like how people are interacting with her and how they're looking at her, it's because she was Chinese American. But and also this is obviously someone he loves, but it was the whole thing of like, you know, the whole status quo, like she's not on our level, she's not true Chinese, but like he loves her, she loves him. She's obviously not in it like for the money. Like I can understand, you know, some people with like when they have money and it's like you need to marry someone who's richer, or no, you need to marry someone who's richer or as rich as you. I don't know. If it was me, babe, you don't have to hide your fame and fortune from me. Like, we can share that together. I'm not gonna be in a relationship for that. It's always gonna be about you. The need to hide it, I felt like, was almost like he was kind of ashamed of it, and I don't feel like he really explained that or why he kept it from her very well. Like, I got it, but it was also just kind of like, you're not doing enough to be there for your girl who is actually going through it, and you're her only person besides Mei-ling. But besides all of that, I love, adore, just like Nick and Rachel, they just go together. I feel like they complement each other so much. But then also, can we just talk about like the cinematography of this film? Specifically the wedding. When me and my mom and like my sister watch this movie, if there's little chatter here and there, whatever, it's silent. You can hear a pin drop. You hear the crickets outside, silent in the house when the wedding scene happens, because it's the most beautiful wedding scene I believe I've ever seen in a movie or TV show, like ever. If you think you have one to top it, please let a sister know and we can go tit for tat, because that wedding scene and like the whole moment when like the girl is singing Can't Help Falling in Love with You and like the water starts trickling in, and the wedding scene of this movie is quite literally my favorite part of the entire movie. And it's not even about Rachel and Nick, but I don't know like how else to describe it. And if you haven't seen it, like watch the whole movie, definitely, for sure. Watch the whole movie. But if you just want to see like the wedding scene, like watch the wedding scene. You can just feel the love. Like you can see the love between Cullen and Araminta really throughout the entire movie, like when they're shown. But in that moment, even especially with like Rachel and Nick, like this whole moment, this whole wedding, of course, is not about them, but seeing like the love between them and like how emotional they are whilst this thing is happening. Because, you know, Cullen is Nick's best friend. It's just kind of like, makes your heart so warm and fuzzy. Honestly, if you haven't seen this movie already, this movie came out in 2018. But when she was like, I don't want any part of your family, and, you know, runs off and then Nick has to run after her, you know, it's so dramatic and I just love every part of it. I don't blame her one bit, because she didn't know anything about her dad not being who her mom had taught her he was. And so that being thrown in her face. And first of all, I love Michelle. Love her. And when I say she played this role, like the Asian mom, so well, like she did it so good. But I can't stand her in this movie. She literally irks my nerves, because how are you gonna hire a private investigator to find out about me and my family and dig up dirt or whatever, and come at me like I'm some gold digger, or saying we can't have this sort of scandal tied to our family. I don't want any parts of your family. Attitude. Now walk off. Because, and like Nick saying like you had no right, and she's like, we had every right, and I'm like, you really didn't. Rachel has given you no reason, none whatsoever, to doubt her character. But it really comes into play when Eleanor and Rachel have the mahjong game, and this is after Rachel's already like broken up with him, and it's just kind of like, you didn't like me from the beginning. I was never gonna be good enough for you. So now I'm leaving on my own terms, not because you and your funky little friends and family, because I know I'm good enough, and whether or not I'm with Nick, I'm gonna be okay with that. And you have to live with the fact that your son has lost the love of his life and will really blame you for the rest of his life. Because like, yeah, I can imagine if Nick and Rachel didn't get back together, Nick would have resented his mom for breaking them up, because bro was trying to propose to Rachel, but it was like he was going to choose Rachel over his family, and Rachel did not want him to do that. She was not going to allow him to choose her over his family, especially not over his mom. And so she had to make the choice for him, which is kind of hard to choose and be like, no, like you need to stay over here, like you can't choose me when you love a person. But it's like, I love him enough to understand that like this is kind of like a losing battle. Like, yeah, we'll be together, but you'll lose this part of yourself that is so great and that I know you love truly and deeply. But happy ending at the end. They got engaged, and we are still waiting for the second movie. I don't know what's taking so long. I understand that the director, John Chu, has been all around the world doing a whole bunch, you know, Wicked and just things, but I'm gonna need the second one. My next movie is Me Before You, and because this movie is one that I saw, honestly, before the movie starts, while the movie's going, once the movie's over, I'm pretty much crying the entire experience of Me Before You. There's never been a time when I've watched this where I didn't cry, where I didn't leave angry, heartbroken, just an abundance of emotions. I adore this movie. This movie is probably up there in like the top 5 of romance movies for me, just in particular. I do not want to get too much into this because I know if I do, there are gonna be tears. And we don't have time for tears right now. I think the biggest thing about this movie that speaks to my heart is you can love someone with everything in you, and that person still decide they don't want to be here. Nothing was ever going to change his mind, even though he loved her, wanted to be with her, knew she loved him, and she wanted to be with him. But Buddy was like, it's not enough. And I completely understand, because like his quality of life since the accident was just, he wasn't happy, and he didn't have the same thrill, the same enjoyment of life. You feel his despair throughout the entire movie. Even when him and Louisa start their relationship, he's just not the same person that he was, like the confident, charming, like, man, it's not him anymore. And I also know for Will, the circumstance with him is like, she's also not going to be able to live her life to the fullest, because she's always going to be taking care of me, which like she wanted to take care of you. But there's so many layers. There's so many layers. Cause it's like, I understand both sides. I understand him, like he had already made this decision. Like there was no changing his mind. Even while like she was taking him to like do all these activities and like these vacations and all these things, his mind didn't change one bit. He was like, I'm still choosing to do this. Which was really hard for her to hear, because it was like, so what am I here for? Like, you think I'm gonna sit here and watch you die? And ultimately she was still there for him, because there would have been no one else he wanted there more than her, and she knew that. And she knew that she wasn't gonna let that last interaction be the last that they had together before he passed. This movie has done things to me. This film is one of the greatest pains and joys of my life, and I choose not to watch it. Honestly, like if there's an option of like, oh, let's watch a movie, I'm not gonna suggest this movie. But even like if I say like, oh, like I want to cry, I'm probably gonna choose another movie before I choose that one, because of like the anguish, because of like the pain. It's gonna take a lot of like emotion and a lot out of me to get to that like state. So I normally am like, let's find another film. It's only very particular times when I choose to watch this movie. Same for my mom and my sister. All three of us are like, do not put this movie on, because you know what it's gonna do to us. But what I will say is that even though Will does decide to medically take his own life, I can truly believe and say that like he became a better person because of Eliza. Without her, he would have still just been like bitter, mean to like everybody. And you saw the change in him. You saw him start to brighten up, and thank God she shaved that mustache and beard, because dude was starting to look a little sketchy, but he cleaned up nice. I just love Sam. Sam's just awesome. And I'm really trying to figure out why in a lot of my favorite films, he dies. Like, I feel like it's in a clause somewhere in his contracts. Like, he has to die, because he dies in this one. He died in Adrift, which set me off too. And then he dies in Mockingjay Part 2. Like, can this boy live? Like, I know there's movies where he does live and he doesn't die, but like, why? So I know I said these are in no particular order. I'm just kind of going based on how I wrote them in my notes. So really quickly, I'm going to jump to the very last movie, because this is the most recent one that I've watched. It's Love at First Sight, and this one is actually a movie on Netflix. This came out, I believe, in 2023. So it's the most recent movie out of all of these ones. This movie is hilarious. I watched it with my parents and my grandma while it was like the little snowstorm or whatever here in Georgia, and I absolutely love this movie. We were cackling the whole time, and watching the characters Hadley and Oliver go throughout this whole film, kind of like missing each other, but then also like being reunited, and like it seems like they almost go through like all the stages of a relationship throughout. Like this movie's like an hour and 30 minutes, and it's so much going on. But it's like, you have to remember, they met that day. This movie happens in a day. And I will say that when it was over and we were all like, oh my gosh, that was a great movie, and I started tearing up, because it was like, it's not that easy. But I actually kind of started like, I really started tearing up kind of out of like, oh my gosh, that was so cute. But then also kind of out of rage, because it's like all these movies just rubbing it in my face. You know how many times I've been to the airport and then not even been at the airport by myself, and been in a situation where I'm sitting next to whoever, nothing, not a zilch. And who knows if I need to make myself more approachable, I don't know. But, and maybe because I'm a little more stranger danger, because let's be honest, it's cute, it's really cute. I love this movie, I really do. Like the way they meet is adorable, like the flirtation is just like there right off the bat. If I was in the airport though, and a random man asked me to like go out for lunch, I would probably say no. I'm very much the type of person at the airport who is sitting at her gate an hour before the flight even boards. I'm extra early when it comes to it, and I'm not moving an inch from my gate until I have to board. I'm not going anywhere besides the bathroom. So maybe I need to be a bit more open-minded. Who knows? But I absolutely love this film. I love how they filmed it and the kind of narration that was going on throughout it. You would think that like a narration in a movie would be overkill or distracting from what's going on. I feel like the way that they did it was really refreshing, and it added to the comedy side of the film, which set it on such a level. And I'm gonna say this because I thought it was really funny. During like the last scene when Hadley and Oliver had like their first kiss, and I'll admit they are going at it, like not like oh my gosh or whatever, but like they're making out pretty heavy. My grandma goes, oh my gosh, are they gonna stop? Or she said something like that, just like, oh, they're still going, like why are they still going or whatever. And I thought it was hilarious because it was like they went through all this stuff, all this mess. Hadley with like her dad marrying another woman, and Oliver and his situation and what was going on with him and his parents. It was a whole lot of, and so I have been waiting for that first kiss to happen. That's always my favorite part of any romance movie, when the couple has their first kiss. I'm rooting for it. I've been screaming for it really since it was like, okay, y'all go together, like kiss. All that being said, Love at First Sight is definitely one of those movies. If I just want like a really good, like feel good movie, I'm definitely gonna put it on. If I need a laugh, I'm gonna for sure put it on. It's one of the funniest movies I've seen. The next 4 movies I'm going to put together for reasons that are going to become obvious here in a second. They are Enchanted, The Princess and the Frog, Tangled, and Elemental. They are all from Disney, with Elemental being from Pixar. Starting off with Enchanted, this movie has been a love of mine since I was a kid. Like the soundtrack does not miss on any of these movies, honestly, but like Enchanted, I really don't feel like people put enough respect on this movie or Giselle. Giselle needs to be used more in the parks, in everything, the lineup. I don't care, but please, somebody explain to me how nobody really even knows about this movie, and it's one of the best movies Disney has ever created. And what I love about it is that it has the fairy tale magic of everything, because Giselle is a cartoon princess who comes into this real world and realizes, you know, love and everything, that like how she's grown up in, like the world that she's from, it's not like that with real people. People don't treat people like that. People don't believe in true love and all these things. Like life is not all peachy keen, rainbows and cupcakes, how she's lived it her entire life. So coming in to this world, meeting Robert and his daughter and everything, just kind of taught her more about her emotions, experiencing love in the real world. Because if you know, you know, at the beginning of Enchanted, her and Edward are singing, I've been dreaming of a true love's kiss. Like all these things. They've met for that first time, and he was like, we'll be married in the morning. And they were planning on getting married until ultimately she falls down the well and ends up in New York City. But it's like, you were gonna get married to a man you just met. Like this reminds me of that scene from Frozen when Anna tells Kristoff, like, you know, I just met him that day. And he's like, you became engaged to someone you just met that day? Yeah, side-eye huge, because what do you mean? But in their world, in Giselle and Edward's world, that made sense. But in New York City, real life, we don't really do stuff like that here. And I loved seeing Robert teach her about, like, you know, you go on dates with the person that you are wanting to be in a relationship with. Like there's all these different stages before you jump to like engagement or even like love and things like that. And then for her, she was kind of challenging. They were both challenging each other, which I absolutely adore. Like how Robert was saying, like, there's these stages to love, like you don't just jump into it, like, and it's not all fairy tale or whatever. And Giselle's like, okay, so what makes you love Nancy? Like, how do you feel about Nancy and all these things? And he couldn't answer her, while she was kind of being like, okay, I guess that doesn't sound like fun, but like I hear you. They complimented each other so well. And then also for Nancy and Edward to end up together, it was just like everybody's happy. This is another one that is one of my comfort movies, and when I say the soundtrack is on repeat, I mean repeat. And speaking of soundtracks, Tangled and The Princess and the Frog. Rapunzel and Tiana, 2 of my favorite princesses. I don't know what else I can say besides just like mentioning these 2 movies. It's kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like, you don't have to explain it to me. I'm with you. The only thing I'm gonna mention about these movies is for Tangled, if you don't see the boat scene, and I see the light, and then for The Princess and the Frog, when Ray is singing Mi Belle Evangeline, that whole scene when they're frogs and they're dancing, I absolutely adore Tangled and The Princess and the Frog. Like they're always gonna be like top tier movies for me. And then lastly, Elemental. Elemental is definitely one that makes me cry. The song Still the Show has gone triple platinum on Spotify for me. I was honestly surprised in my Spotify Wrapped for last year that it wasn't in my top 5. Because I will put this song on repeat and just keep listening to it. That's how much I love it, and it never, ever, never gets on my nerves. Wade and Ember, there's something about Wade. I just love Wade so much. He's such like a golden retriever, like lover boy. And because he's water, I feel like he's such an embodiment of like a water sign, and like Ember obviously being fire. They fit their roles so well. And how Wade is kind of supposed to be like rich boy who's not necessarily life has been easy for him, but he's never had to grapple with the fact of like, this is how my life has panned out. This is how my parents have lived their life. So this is what I have to do. Like, he's always had the option of a choice. Like, he's always been able to choose what he wants for his life. Whereas for Ember, it's always like, this is what my dad wants for me to do. So I'm gonna do this because this is what it seems like I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't have a choice in this matter, which was obviously like what was really her biggest struggle, I feel like, throughout the whole movie was nothing was ever her choice. It was always things decided for her, and she thought that she wanted these things. That's what really caused the rift between Wade and Ember. But when I say Wade, like his little love confession, and like he saw Ember, and y'all, I'm trying not to get too like, you see my smile is is practically from ear to ear. I'm trying not to get too excited, because when I get really excited, I start talking fast, and then my voice goes like this, and I just go to I'm trying to keep my cool and not be all like, but I can't help it right now. Because when I tell you, I love this man, and he's not even like a man. He's water. He's an element, hence the name of the movie. The biggest thing for me is throughout the entire movie of Elemental, Wade is like stepping up for Ember and like being there for her in so many different ways, even though like at the beginning kind of seemed like they were enemies, but like old dude was going above and beyond to help her with her situation and try to make her happy, to make things work for her, even though he knew and she knew that it really wasn't what she wanted, and was trying to show her that like there was more to life than like what she had been shown or what was given to her like as her option. Like, you have other options. You just need to decide that you're going to take the chance and step out and actually try and find other opportunities for yourself. And Ember was not having it whatsoever. And I think the main thing that stands out to me in this movie is that Wade knew who Ember was. He knew that she was stubborn, that she was hard-headed, that she had a little bit of a temper and all these things, and he did not care. He wanted that woman. He wanted her in every form she came in. She didn't care that he was a little bit of a crybaby, that he was emotional, and all these things. Like, they saw each other for who they were. This is who I love, and this is exactly how I want them. And it's for those reasons why my standards are high, because if the cartoons can do it, you can do it too, babe. The next two movies are in the category of, I enjoy this more so for the comedy aspect. While the romance it hits hard, and I love it dearly. I love these movies because they are absolutely hilarious, and those are Hitch and Coming to America. Both of these movies actually are staples in this household. We love Hitch, we love Coming to America. And what I love about this movie is, while Will Smith as Hitch is being the little date doctor and helping these men get dates with all these different women and everything like that, when Kevin James's character comes in, Lil Albert, to try and be with his client, I believe, I forget what his occupation was, but Allegra was like a client of theirs or something like that. He wanted to be with her, and so he tried to get Hitch's help. And throughout it all, the way he really found Allegra's heart was through being himself. And I love that like Hitch realized that too. Like, none of the moves that like he was trying to teach Albert was what made Allegra fall in love with him. It was just Albert being Albert. And ultimately, this movie is a really big lesson for Hitch, as he realizes that Albert has found his love through being himself and not following the methods that he's cultivated and taught other men are like the ways to get women. In him starting to date Sarah, he's also seeing like, yeah, like I don't need to be a performance. This can just be genuine. This can just be something that like I really want to do. These aren't lines that I'm spewing at you. Like, I'm very much speaking from my heart and just saying what's on my mind. Having confidence in yourself is one of the most attractive things a person can have. So it's like, just be you. Like, you don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else but yourself. And in me saying that, now we get to Coming to America, which Buddy Boy did not do. Prince Akeem runs from Africa to escape an arranged marriage, which, can we blame him? But then also, You know, he wants to be able to find someone who loves him for him, not because he's a prince and the person wants to be a princess or anything along those lines. And so he goes to Queens and meets Lisa, which I can't help but say, they make a cute couple. And ultimately, of course, when she finds out, and this kind of reminds me of Crazy Rich Asians, because it's like I get why you did what you did, but you still lied to me. And you're telling me I could have been a princess and you hid that from me from this long, and I had to find out from your parents coming from Africa all the way here, disrespecting me and my father. And it's like, why didn't you just tell me the truth? And honestly, one thing I find incredibly fascinating about this movie is how Lisa's father initially didn't think that Akeem was good enough for his daughter, up until he found out that he was a prince and was obviously wealthy. And it's like, oh, so now I'm good enough. Not when I was treating your daughter right, I'm a good guy, obviously, and I'm doing all these things right, but because I don't have money, I'm not good enough. Which I can understand from a father's point of view. You know, a parent's point of view is like, you want your child to have everything in life that they can. You want them to be able to be with someone who can support them and provide for them. So yeah, but like, no. And then Akeem's dad being like, she's not good enough for my son because she's not a princess or she doesn't have a social title. It was just it was such a back and forth moment. And it's like, you both are horrible people. Like, because he's poor and not rich, because she's poor and not rich. And it's like, they love each other. I feel like that's all that matters. And ultimately, Lisa finds out and she's like, hey, no, I don't want to marry you. Even though Akeem is like, I will renounce my throne. Which, babe, slow down. I want you with the crown, and I'll love you without it if that's really what you want. But I'm realizing that I'm giving a lot of details away. But this movie came out in like the 1980s. So if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? My last movie is A Walk to Remember, which I've only ever seen this movie once. So it's kind of like, okay, Kayla, like, how is it one of your favorites? But what I will say is that the story is a favorite because of the stages that Landon and Jamie go through together. I feel like it's genuine in how they almost kind of went from, it's a very much like opposites attract, but you get a little bit of like friends to enemies to friends against to lovers. And I love that for them. If I've never said it before, friends to lovers is one of my favorite tropes. I adore Jamie, first of all, because when I say, oh girl was speaking her mind, didn't care what anybody else thought about her, even while she's going through such like a hard time, like dealing with this illness and everything, like she's still walking around head held high, like not even in like a snobbish where like I think I'm better than everybody else. It's just like, I don't have time to be worried about what you and your nasty ugly little friends think about me. That's not her words, so that's just me basically putting it into perspective. Like, she had bigger things to worry about than these little high school teenagers being like bullies towards her. And for Landon needed to get his life straight. He needed to get his act cleaned up through his walk and his journey and finding himself and, you know, falling in love with Jamie. Landon begins to realize that like he has other aspirations in life than to just be like bad boy. Like, you think you want to peak in high school and like that's what you're known for, and you have nothing else going for you. Like, everybody knows like, oh yeah, Landon, he didn't do anything for himself. He was just this tough kid, you know, growing up, and that's all he did. He didn't amount to anything else. And through being with Jamie and like seeing her strength and starting to have faith and desire for more in life, he was like, okay, like, yeah, I want to go to medical school. I want all these things and I want to be better for myself, but then also for Jamie because Jamie deserves it. And finding out ultimately that Jamie has leukemia and that she's not responding to the treatments, he's kind of like, okay, like this can't be what it is. And if you know the story, you know the story. But I absolutely adore that like Jamie saw something in him that Landon didn't see. Jamie and Landon were at two different times of their life where Jamie is dealing with this thing where it's like her life is about to end, and Landon has finally decided to start his life. So they were kind of meeting each other at like a crossroads where it's like Landon's gonna keep going and Jamie ultimately has to stop. And Landon had a better path for his life because he decided to fall in love with Jamie even though she told him not to. I thought that was so cute. He was like, don't fall in love with me, and he's like, yeah, okay, like that's not gonna be hard, which obviously he failed at. All right guys, so those are just 10 of my favorite rom-com movies. I have so many more. Like, going through the list and trying to pick just these 10 was already hard And let me start off by saying I was only supposed to choose 5, but as the list kept going and as I kept like looking up more, it was like, oh no, like I have to choose this one, like this one's definitely a favorite, and I ended up with 10. If you haven't seen any of these movies, I highly recommend them and say that you should go watch them. Just like that, we're at the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. A quick update on my reading journey. I finished Draw Me With Dreams and I started and completed The 7 Daughters of Dupree. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and share this with all your friends. I've been KAYLA Sierra and I will see you in the next video. Bye!